Old School Pro Wrestling wrote in some months ago for the last show, and he asked, what happened with Tito Santana and your first ECW title reign? Were you booked to win the title before Tito no-showed? I don't know any of this story.
Yeah, well, that whole early lore of ECW was all created. None of it happened. I think the lore was that I had defeated him for the title at some show. That never happened, obviously. And but I think Paul, with where he was going to be taking his stories, there had to be a beginning to the story in the first and second and third chapter. And so they just laid that down like in the old days of wrestling. So and so lost the belt in Timbuktu, and now so and so is the champion. And back then, like for me as a kid going into the arenas, you could look and see. First thing I would do when I'd get into the Civic Arena, I'd start looking around at the TV cameras here. And you knew the belt wasn't changing hands, right? So yeah, you sort of catch up on it that way. But yeah, there was none of that. But like Tito, I do want to say this about Tito because he's one of the guys, when you walk into those dressing rooms, like I said about ECW earlier, right? If you weren't in that first generation on that first ground floor, that was an intimidating dressing room to walk into. For us kids walking into that WWF dressing room in 1990, that was an intimidating dressing room, right? You got all these larger than life stars that have been on TV drawing buku bucks forever. But Tito was one of the first main guys that would come over and say hello to you. Hey, you having a good day, Shane? Like kind of just little comments here and there. Very, very friendly guy. And I was a big Tito fan at the time. Like I'd seen him have some really great matches, and so it helped ease into that dressing room. It dropped some of that consternation of walking into a dressing room like that. There still was a very specific pecking order, and you were well aware of that. But the fact that some of these guys, would do that made you feel welcomed. And as I got older in the business, I've told you the story about Macho Man. Always remember, if you want to have a career in this business, always thank the guy that puts you over because he's the one that let you have it. Mm-hmm. That has been tattooed on my brain. And I've always thanked the guys that have put me over because, again, they're giving me that career, as Randy told me. And watching how Tito was accepting of guys like me into the dressing room, I've always tried to do that to other younger guys coming to the dressing room because it's, our business can be tough in a lot of ways, and it is tough in a lot of ways. We don't need to make it tougher. I remember there was one episode with Rodman, first time he came into ECW. He's a great guy. But again, you're walking into the belly of the beast there, right? I mean, there's a lot of larger than life people sitting there. And so he walked in one day and just sort of quietly melted over into a corner. And Perry Saturn saw it and he thought he was being disrespectful. Now, if you paid attention, this kid's not being disrespectful. He's scared shitless. And Perry called the dressing room together and like basically reamed him out. You walk around, you shake everybody's hand. He's like screaming out. I pull his head, dude, like that's not necessary, right? Like we can welcome. I'm thinking how Tito welcomed me in, right? If I'd have walked in there and, I don't know, Butch Reed would have gone, hey, just get over here and shake everybody's hand. I'd have been terrified. We have to be cognizant of that. And I always was, and I'm thankful that I've had guys like Tito and Randy and an endless list of amazing talents, future Hall of Famers and icons and true legends all, to teach me that, because if I hadn't been taught it, I wouldn't know it. And I tell people all the time, I would love to be 20 years old again. I really would. I'm glad I was 20 when I was coming into this business and not 20 getting in now.
Just to clarify, did we ever find out why Tito never turned up? Was it just a money thing, or did you ever find out?
No, I don't even know. See, that whole, again, like how it was all created. My take on it had always been that that's just the way Paul wrote it out. I don't even know if he was booked. He may have been. I doubt that Tito wouldn't have showed up, though, because that's not like Tito.